Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wall Street from Main Street podcast. Today we'll be featuring Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Institute. Yaron, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I'm happy to have you. And first topic I want to get into was one of the lessons I got from Ayn Rand was, and I think sometimes this is lost, because a lot of people, when they say what's wrong with America, they talk about the politicians, policies, and obviously those are horrible, but to me, they're nothing but symptoms. The real disease and problems, I say she made this clear in Atlas Shrugged, was America's going through a philosophical and intellectual disease. What would you say about my analyst of Atlas Shrugged's message?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. That the core problem in America today is a philosophical one. It's the ideas that people hold. It's the ideas the intellectuals are teaching us, that the teachers are teaching us. These ideas are antagonistic to freedom. They're antagonistic to capitalism. They're antagonistic to individualism. They're really ideas that are consistent with statism and collectivism, and we're seeing the consequence of this. This is why she could write a novel, Atlas Shrugged, 55 years ago, and it could be so predictive in a sense, so prophetic in terms of what's going on today in the world, because she understood that what drives history is our ideas. And if you understand what the ideas are in a given culture, you can predict where it's heading. And that's exactly what she did in Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, and one thing also I would agree is what people forget, I think one of the reasons individualism is so superior to collectivism is I believe that individuals are individualistic at heart, and when they are forced to do their own, make decisions based on their own initiative, for some reason it's just beneficial for everyone. An example is the reason businesses exist, well, one's to make money, but you have to do it by serving people.
Yes, there's no question. I mean, when you create value, you're creating value for somebody. So it is indeed the case that in order to be productive, in order to be successful, one has to sell a product to somebody. And why is that person buying your product? They're buying your product because they want to be better off. And if they didn't think your product made them better off, they just wouldn't buy it. So a system of voluntary exchange, a system in which we trade with one another, is a system that everybody benefits from. And what Rand argues is that our culture is dominated by an ethic of the opposite of that, an ethic of altruism, an ethic of self-sacrifice, selflessness, an ethic that advocates giving up stuff and not trying to establish win-win relationships, but indeed lose-win relationships, which is the essence of what sacrifice is. And she says that is incredibly destructive. That is inherently collectivistic, because basically that morality says that you don't own your own life. Your life is owned by the collective. You are obliged. You have a duty to serve the collective, to serve the leader, to serve the witch doctor, to serve somebody else, but not your own life. And she rejects that morality, and she says the only way to defend capitalism is to defend it morally, which means on the basis of your right to your own life, on the basis of your moral right to your own life, that your moral responsibility, first and foremost, is to live your life and to make the most out of your life, and to make your life the best life that it can be and achieve happiness. And that should be your moral responsibility, not service to others.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of happiness, duty to oneself, nothing can be more disappointed. Ayn Rand, I forget who was interviewing her, but it was on a TV show interview, and she stated that both parties are socialists. And I think these elections, are such proof. You couldn't believe the socialistic words coming. Romney was supposed to be the capitalist, founder of Bain Capital, and of course, he starts campaigning that basically I'm not going to raise taxes, or I'm not going to lower taxes for the wealthy. He says they don't need a tax break. And this is the capitalist here, that there's a need for regulation in the free market. And besides, what?
No, he's a middle of the road compromiser, just like all the Republicans. I mean, the Republicans are not a free market capitalism political party. They really never have been. They are statist and they are collectivist. Just they're slightly less statist and slightly less collectivist than the Democrats. But there's the fundamental difference is not there, and I think this is part of the reason why Romney lost, is because the American people could see a difference between him and Obama. And if you're going to vote for a kind of statist, collectivist, leftist, you might as well vote for the real thing and not for somebody who's pretending to be something else. But yeah, Romney was a complete Me Too candidate. He wanted to do everything Obama wanted to do. He just wanted to do less of it or do it more efficiently.
Yeah, and one thing I was actually worried about with a Romney victory is in 2008, Bush was obviously, if you actually looked at his real policies, passing new regulations, 50,000, increasing the penal code, expanding Medicare, and on and on. And yet, because he talked the talk, people thought he was a capitalist. And were you worried about Romney giving a capitalism a bad name if he won?
Yeah, yes. I mean, absolutely. But I don't think he would have, just because I don't think anybody was delusional enough to think that he was a capitalist. And the problem with Romney, the problem with Romney losing is not that Romney lost. I don't really like Romney that much. I don't care. It's that Obama won, and I believe that Obama is one of the most destructive presidents in American history, and potentially could be the most destructive. So it really, I think the worry is some part of this election is that the American people would actually choose somebody like Obama to be president of the United States, somebody who's hostile, I think, to all the principles at the founding of this country.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's been very hostile for a while, and my favorite. Oh no, not my favorite, but speaking of altruism and everything, I always wanted your take on this. I believe there's a new villain coming into play, and I think it's altruism and the villains of Atlas Shrugged on steroids, believe it or not. And I think it's environmentalism, where basically we have to do everything in the name of Mother Earth. We're not even serving people we know. We're serving something, nature, a piece of ground or a rock. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts on environmentalists and environmentalism movement? And if you could speak to them, what would you tell them?
Well, the environmentalist movement, and Ayn Rand identified this in the late 60s. So she was, again, just like in Atlas Shrugged, she was way ahead of her time. In those days, they called themselves ecologists. And she identified them for what they are, qua radicals, qua movement. I'm not saying everybody agrees with environmentalism, believes this, but they are anti-industry, anti-progress, anti-capitalist, and really at the end of the day, anti-human life. That's what is at the roots of the environmentalist movement. They resent man's success. They resent man's ability to thrive in nature, and they want to prohibit us from being successful as a species. And they do this in the name of nature as an end in itself, not nature as something to serve human needs, but as an end in itself. And I think it's a nihilistic ideology. It's an ideology that I don't think the radical environmentalists care about spotted owls, about forests, about trees, or about human beings. What they really care about, or what they really, gets them going, is destruction. They want to see human beings be less successful. They want to knock us down. They want to see the end of industrialization and the end of technology. That's the real motivation. And they're very consistent ideologues. And again, Ayn Rand saw this way back. She saw this in the 1960s. She understood the phenomena, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse since then.
Yeah, I definitely agree. No matter what we do, we can't build a pipeline. They won't let us drill. Now they're complaining about wind power cutting off the birds. They're complaining about solar power.
Well, they'll always complain because the goal is human. The goal is to destroy human happiness and human success. So they'll always complain because nothing that we do, they don't want alternative energy. They want no energy, and they'll always find flaw with whatever technology you come up with because they're not about solutions. They're just about destruction.
Oh, I agree completely. I think the environmentalists are more dangerous to our liberty, even more than the Federal Reserve. That's
there's no question.
my
There's
opinion.
no question in my view.
And I actually want to get into one other thing with you. Is going to college, I was a law society major. I read philosophy a lot, the school-run philosophy. And I never heard of Ayn Rand. I never heard of Ayn Rand until 2010. I graduated college in 2008. And that's when I started really liking her book. I read Atlas Shrugged and saw the movies, and I was wondering, why do you think Ayn Rand isn't even brought up in schools or even talked about or mentioned?
Well, because I think a philosophy is so antagonistic to their beliefs and so the opposite of everything that they hold. Today modern professors are moral subjectivists, the relativists in epistemology, or the some type form of Platonists. They don't want to have to deal with Ayn Rand's philosophy. She's also a system builder, which they resent. She, in a sense, she has a comprehensive philosophy, which most philosophers today reject the whole notion of a comprehensive philosophy. And of course, in her ethics, she is an egoist, and that is not a view that most academics want to take seriously. It offends them. And of course, she's a pro-capitalist, and we know that over 80% of university professors are left of center. So they reject her because of her ideas, because her ideas challenge their beliefs, and because her ideas go counter to their beliefs. But there's a growing presence of Ayn Rand both in high schools and in colleges today. And more English teachers are teaching Ayn Rand's novels in the classroom, and more university professors are using Atlas Shrugged in the classroom. There are at least 80 programs in the U.S. where Atlas Shrugged or one of Ayn Rand's novels or one of her nonfiction books are being taught on a regular basis. So I think it's changing. I think the visibility of Ayn Rand in the culture, I think you'll see more and more courses about her, more and more high school teachers teaching her. So I think we're at a pivotal point in history where all of that will change.
Well, to sum that what you just set up, would you believe that this is proof that no propaganda or suppression can stop an idea whose time has come?
I think that's absolutely right, although I will say that it is possible that people will still ignore her ideas. It's not clear to me that the time has come in that sense. We could decline culturally into dark ages before people rediscover Ayn Rand. I do think at the end, whenever that is, whenever history comes around to it, whenever people make the choices necessary for it, in the end, Ayn Rand will win. Ayn Rand's ideas will be dominant in the culture. That could be in 30 years, it could be in 150 years, and it could be in 1,000 years. I have no idea when, but I have no doubt that the truth wins out in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think her truth will win, and if you look at it, at least from what I've read, is that her most sales in 1 year was in 2008. And I think as things get worse, people are going to go to, how did she see this? And I think you're starting to see this with the youth. Do you see this in many schools? Like, I see so many clubs in college campuses, even though I'm not in college.
Oh, no, you see it everywhere, and in high schools and in colleges. And 2009 actually was the best year for her novel ever, for Atlas Shrugged ever. And that year it sold, over 500,000 copies, which is unheard of, completely unheard of. So there's no question that her presence in the culture has dramatically increased, and that her influence in the culture is going to be quite significant in the years to come. She is everywhere these days, in the high schools, in colleges, in the media, in newspapers. Everybody's commenting on Ayn Rand, positively or negative. It really is everywhere.
Yeah, even Obama now has to take a position on Ayn Rand.
Yes, and that's a huge step.
And I just want to say one thing to support what you said. You said that socialism is for teenagers. Ayn Rand isn't. Well, I just want to say, when I was a teenager, I never heard of Ayn Rand. So obviously, he was inaccurate. He's inaccurate a lot.
Well, and think of how prevalent Ayn Rand is with the Tea Parties. Think how many congressmen today have been heavily influenced by Ayn Rand. Think of how many university professors. I mean, it's complete nonsense, and it shows how infantile he is in a sense. But yeah, socialism is what teenagers usually get attracted to, and then they discover real life, and they discover what it means to work, and they discover what it means for your money to be taken away from you, or people telling you what and how to live. I mean, the truth is that socialism is not good for anybody. Nobody should ever be attracted to socialism. And if we had a half decent educational system, nobody would be attracted to socialism. Socialism is only attractive to the people coming out of our pathetic educational system without the ability to think and without the ability to really understand history and economics and philosophy and understand that the purpose of their life is their own happiness, not some social utility or public good or utility maximization of people, of society. So it's our educational system that is at fault in making, even for teenagers, socialism palatable. Socialism shouldn't be palatable to anybody.
No, I definitely don't see a need to help out someone causes I believe in, and I don't see a need for someone to take my money. That, to me, is called stealing. But in terms of Ayn Rand's philosophy and books, you have a new book coming out. Can you tell us about it? I'm beginning to think maybe this is the sequel to Ayn Rand's. Maybe the torch is being passed on to you.
It's not a sequel, but it is. It does use Ayn Rand's ideas, and it is based all on Ayn Rand's ideas. It's a book. It's already out. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it really at Barnes & Noble, any bookstore. It's available on Kindle and audio in any format one wants. It's called Free Market Revolution: How Ayn Rand's Ideas Can End Big Government. And it's really about the political situation we find ourselves today and why, in order to overcome the growth of the state, the decline of capitalism, the increased regulation, the increased redistribution, what we need is really a moral, ethical revolution. What we need is to reject self-sacrifice and selflessness and altruism, and to adopt an ethic of rational self-interest. And that then leads to a completely different perspective, a positive perspective on the profit motive, on business, on capitalism, on the free market. And until we adopt this ethic, we are going to lose the battle for free markets. We need a moral, ethical revolution in this country, and the sooner the better.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think Ayn Rand, if she were alive today, a lot of people say, she would say, "I told you so," or that, or, this is what altruism does. But if the people asked her what are the solutions, I think she would tell the general public, listen, if you want to be the great nation you used to be, you must undertake an intellectual and philosophical revolution, or you are doomed to this.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to understand and adapt the ideas of the founding fathers, but we need to complement those ideas with a foundation based in Ayn Rand's philosophy. She completes the revolution that the founders started.
That is a great combination, to founding fathers and Ayn Rand.
Absolutely.
If people want to find out more about you, how can they do so?
Well, my co-author and I have a blog called capitalism.aynrand.org, capitalism.aynrand.org. Go to Amazon, search for Free Market Revolution. I think people enjoyed it. It's not an academic book. It's easy to read, but I think people will really enjoy it and learn a lot from it. And AynRand.org. That's the AynRand.org is the website for the Ayn Rand Institute.
Thanks for coming on, and we definitely like to have you back on in the future.
My pleasure. Anytime. Thank you.
All right.